Hello, it's Greg from Microsoft Hates Greg. Welcome to another episode of Microsoft Hates Greg. In today's episode, we are going to cover one of my favorite and quite possibly my absolute favorite quick measure of all time, Chelsie Eiden's duration. There's such a long and rich history to this quick measure. It's a really fascinating story, so stick around and watch the entire video to really understand the ins and outs of Chelsie Eiden's duration and its history. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. So the agenda for today is to cover the following: how to use Chelsie Eiden's duration in Mushgookum. We'll also cover duration to seconds because it kind of goes hand in hand with Chelsie Eiden's duration. And once I'm done demonstrating those two measures in Mushgookum, we'll cover the history of Chelsie Eiden's duration and fill you in on one of my personal heroes in the world of Power BI, and just who that is may surprise you. Finally, we will actually make a significant improvement to Chelsie Eiden's duration that will show up in the next version, Gamma, of Mushgookum. So the basic problem behind Chelsie Eiden's duration, and this has been going on a long time, since about 2015, is that people would have durations in maybe seconds or HHMMSS format. And they wanted to aggregate those values and then display them in a visual. And they want to display them as in HHMMSS format. So this problem really wasn't solved until Chelsie Eiden's duration came along in 2019. So about 4 years to really solve this. So here we have, this is the original Power BI file that I used to publish Chelsie Eiden's duration to the quick measure gallery. And I've got Mushgookum running, and this is the beta version, which has the classic formula for Chelsie Eiden's duration, which you can find under the time and duration section, Chelsie Eiden's duration and duration to seconds. All right, so again, Chelsie Eiden's duration aggregates the duration in seconds, converts it to an HHMMS format that can be displayed in a visual like a column chart. Now, I realize this may seem like a pretty simple thing to do, but stick around to really understand the challenges here. But before we launch into Chelsie Eiden's duration, let's briefly cover duration to seconds. So to use duration for seconds, really all you have to do is select your column that has your duration in it. And that duration would be expected to be in HH:MM:SS format, right? So I select my column here. I can select duration to seconds. I've got a couple options. I have a maximum and a minimum. Again, we're dealing with text because DAX really doesn't have a duration data type. So really, anything that's in HH:MM:SS format is going to be a text string as far as DAX is concerned. So really, we just have minimum and maximum here. All we have to do is hit generate DAX. As you can see here, I'm using the substitute function, and it assumes colon, right, and replaces those with the pipe character. The reason that is then I can use path item, the path functions in DAX, to grab the first, second, and third items in that path, right? And then I can just multiply that by the number of seconds. So this is the number of seconds in an hour. This is the number of seconds in a minute. Obviously, number of seconds in a second is 1. And I just add those all together. So that's duration to seconds, right? Very simple. Now, Chelsie Eiden's duration, we want to use that one, has a few more options, and I added some additional things to the classic definition. So I can pick what my aggregation I want it to be, and I can pick my duration is in days or hours or minutes or seconds. So let me show you how that works. Let's generate the DAX for this. And as you can see, really what this duration does is it takes my duration. So let's say I have 1 day and I want to convert it. I just multiply by the number of seconds in a day, essentially. Or if I have my duration in hours. So really what you're doing here with this is you're just changing the conversion factor. So if you actually have it in seconds, the conversion factor is 1. So then what we're doing is we have to grab out the different pieces and parts. And so that's why you're going to see a lot of int, we're grabbing the duration, we're dividing by the number of seconds in a day to get the number of hours. We're doing similar things in terms of it's a lot of math. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not going to dig into the math, but This math is proven over years and years that this works in terms of, we're grabbing, we're subtracting the hours, and then we're taking the remainder and then doing some more math on it. Anyway, we get our hours, minutes, and seconds. And then what we're doing down here at the end is we're putting this into a specific format that we can use with the custom format string, which is really the secret behind Chelsie Eiden's duration. So we're taking the hours, we're multiplying that by 10,000, the minutes by 100, and then adding the seconds, right? So we're returning a numeric value, which is very important. So if we go ahead and create this, the nice thing about this, so we created the sum of duration of Chelsie Eiden's duration. Here's my DAX. But the real secret behind this, and the tool Mushkookum sets this automatically for you, is the custom format string. So this custom format string, I've set it to 00:00:00. So that's why I had to multiply the hours by like 10,000, because I had to get them in the proper places for this custom format string to work. And then that allows you to display the durations in hours, minutes, and days, or hours, minutes, and seconds format, right? So that's Chelsie Eiden's duration. And that's how you use it. That's how it works. But why is it called Chelsie Eiden's duration, right? Well, the reason it's called Chelsie Eiden's duration is because of Chelsie Eiden. So Chelsie Eiden is actually a software engineer that works at Microsoft. Now, when she came to Microsoft, she was originally an intern, and she is the one that's responsible for putting custom format strings into the Power BI desktop. So it's really Chelsie Eiden that eventually solved this problem with displaying aggregated time and duration within Power BI. And the reason, it's so important is because before that, we could get and aggregate the duration, right, in seconds, and then we'd have to convert it back to text, because we'd have to convert it back to a text string to display. Well, that doesn't work in column visuals, for example, or bar chart visuals. So really, it was the custom format string in Chelsie Eiden that solved this problem, right? But Chelsie Eiden's duration is really just the end of a very long saga that started way back in 2015 with a forum post on aggregating data, time duration data. And it really involves one of my personal heroes, who is Konstantinos. And I will forever be grateful to Konstantinos, because he is the person that introduced me to the var statement. There he is, one of my personal heroes in Power BI. So the blog post that really kind of kicked all this off was this aggregating duration time. And it was a forum post that this person, I don't even know who posted this. C. Morris, there we go. And so I ended up solving this, but I did it with columns. And if you look here, the original solution, I basically created a bunch of columns. And this is because I didn't know any better. And I also had some math errors, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I create a bunch of columns and then return, here's that text string where I concatenate everything back together. Well, then Konstantinos shows up and just rocks my world, right? He's like, hey, it's great, but I used vars. I'm like, what in the world is a var return statement, right? I had no idea. And this just completely and utterly changed DAX for me in Power BI, because really it's the var statements that have really helped me solve and tackle ridiculously complex DAX, because I could break the problem down into chunks and debug each piece versus creating dozens of columns or crazy infinitely nested DAX formulas. So Konstantinos, forever my hero. He's the one that taught me about var and return statements, so I'm forever in his debt. And then this really led to this aggregating duration time blog article that I wrote up and gave Konstantinos credit because he deserves it. And as you can see, this is kind of the original Chelsie Eiden's duration. There's a lot more logic here in terms of, hey, I had to calculate out my hours, minutes, seconds, But then I had to figure out, make sure I had leading zeros for things, and then concatenate everything back. And this returned text, which, again, doesn't work well in certain visuals. So this is all the way back in March 2016. And this is kind of was the state of things until Chelsie Eiden introduced custom format strings, and that solved the final problem, right? All right, so basic formula for duration, aggregating duration, and all that really hasn't changed in 6 years, right? Ever since this blog article and this, when Konstantinos and I came up with the first solution for this. But so I was kind of surprised when recently I started noticing in the Power BI community forum that people were having problems with it, and it was returning weird results. And I'm like, that can't be right. This thing's been around for years. How are people? What's going wrong? Well, it turns out it was because of negative durations. And the classic time aggregation formulas in Chelsie Eiden's duration don't handle negative durations. It just was never tested or never thought about that we would have negative durations. But apparently people need negative durations. So how do we solve that? Well, it turns out there's a pretty simple solution. And I've actually coded that into the Gamma version of Microsoft Hates Greg. And it's a little hard to read in this format. So what we'll do is we'll kick off the Gamma version of Microsoft Hates Greg's quick measures. We'll pick our duration. We will pick our Chelsie Eiden's duration. Let's go ahead and pick some other duration like maximum, and we'll generate the DAX for it. And we'll just go ahead and create it. So we have here, we have our maximum duration, Chelsie Eiden's duration. Now, what's different here is that what I do is this is the same, a different variable name, but it's the same conversion. But now what I do is I grab the sign of this duration, and I store it in a variable called sign. Imagine that. Now, then I get my duration, I grab the absolute value. So now I've turned that negative, if it is a negative, into a positive. Then Chelsie Eiden's duration works perfectly. Then at the end, all I have to do is take that same conversion and then just multiply it by the sign. And now if it's a negative again. So that's what we're going to, this is the new latest and greatest version of Chelsie Eiden's duration, or the time aggregation duration problem. I hope you've enjoyed this video and have a deeper appreciation behind the DAX and the rich history that is Chelsie Eiden's duration. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.